Welcome, everyone. If you've ever stared up at the ceiling at like 1 chart in the morning, feeling this just terrifying distance from the person sleeping right next to you, well, this explainer is absolutely for you. Today, we're dismantling one of the most misunderstood, stigmatized, and frankly painful experiences a human can go through, that gut wrenching feeling of falling out of love. We're going to use the science of attachment and neurobiology to show you exactly why this terrifying feeling might actually be the complete opposite of a failure. So here's the $1 million question. Did we fall out of love, or did we never really have it in the first place? It's that classic 1 a.m. panic, right? You're lying next to a partner who suddenly feels like a total stranger. The gap between what you used to feel and what you feel right now, it's so wide, it's literally scary. But I want to assure you right off the bat, the mere fact that you're asking this question or, frantically Googling it in the middle of the night is actually a fantastic sign, because people who don't care, they don't Google. The ache you're feeling isn't necessarily proof that the love is dead. It's proof that the bond still really matters to you. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is a reassuring roadmap out of the relationship forest. First, we'll look at your brain on new love, then compare limerence versus mature love, walk through the 4 relationship stages, decode the waltz of pain, look at the signs it is actually over, and finally wrap up with a reconnection protocol. Section 1, your brain on new love. To immediately de-escalate that panic you might be feeling, we've got to understand the biology first. When you two first met, your brain was in the dopamine stage. It's a neurological state that's crazy similar to a cocaine high. Your reward pathways were just lighting up, driving this obsessive focus. But eventually, your brain naturally transitions into the oxytocin phase. This is where bonding, safety, trust, and calm take over. Now, a lot of people mistake this biological shift for losing love, but think about it. Turning down the music's volume so you can actually hear each other talk isn't a downgrade, right? It's an evolutionary upgrade into true safety. And honestly, during that early dopamine high, you weren't even really meeting your partner. You were meeting what we call the representative. You know what I'm talking about. It's that perfectly polished, curated, suspiciously agreeable version of yourself that never, ever leaves dishes in the sink. You were both basically engaged in fiat intimacy. It's a dazzling performance printed out of thin air. It feels incredibly real, but you haven't yet paid the caloric cost of actual vulnerability. Neither of your deeply hidden flaws have been tested yet. Section 2, limerence versus mature love. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark difference between nature's marketing campaign and the actual product we're buying into. That intense early feeling, it actually has a clinical name. It's called limerence. It's characterized by intrusive thoughts, idealization, and those famous butterflies. But let's be real, those butterflies are honestly just low-grade panic and anxiety. Limerence is just a biological recruiting mechanism. It's the free trial. Mature love, on the other hand, is the settled safety of seeing a person's flaws with total clarity and actively choosing them anyway. The end of limerence is completely inevitable, and mistaking its end for a relationship death sentence is a massive tragedy we definitely want to avoid. Section 3, the 4 relationship stages. So if limerence naturally ends, what comes next? Let's trace the predictable path. Every relationship moves through a sequence. We all start in the merge, that dopamine honeymoon. But look at stage 2, the disillusionment. This is when the representatives retire and the real flawed people finally show up. Now, this contrast feels like death, but it is so crucial. Stage 2 actually means the relationship is working. It's successfully surfacing your unhealed material. You literally have to pass through this, make the decision in stage 3 to finally reach stage 4, wholehearted love, and that beautiful earned security. I absolutely love this quote. In calm weather, everyone looks securely attached. Think about it like a boat. You don't really know if a boat is seaworthy by just looking at it parked safely in the marina on a gorgeous sunny day. The honeymoon phase, that's the marina. Real intimacy is out on the open ocean. You only find out how strong the connection really is when the storm hits and those calm weather illusions just break. Section 4, dancing the waltz of pain. Because when that calm weather does break, our nervous systems take over, and that's when we start dancing the waltz of pain. It's basically an infinity loop of mutual terror driven by our underlying attachment styles. The anxious partner feels any distance as abandonment, so they hyper pursue. The avoidant partner feels closeness as suffocation, so they deactivate and withdraw. And the disorganized partner, they just chaotically oscillate between the two. The tragic irony here is that one partner's pursuit directly triggers the other's withdrawal. It creates this endless cycle where both people are completely terrified, but both are pointing the finger at the other. The biology behind this waltz is just staggering. When your amygdala senses a threat, like say your partner pulling away, it sounds the alarm and literally pushes your prefrontal cortex offline. The logical, empathetic part of your brain just goes dark. You're suddenly no longer two rational adults. You are surviving children reenacting ancient childhood wounds that neither of you caused, but both of you are activating. You simply can't think your way out of this biological storm. Section 5, signs it is actually over. Now, we have to be realistic. Sometimes relationships really do end. Let's use the ultimate diagnostic tool to separate a painful transition from genuine disconnection. Notice how fear of loss, missing the past, and even repetitive fights are actually listed under the normal transition side. Anger means you still care, but on the genuinely falling out of love side, we see the true danger signs: indifference, contempt, feeling actual relief when they leave the room. If you genuinely do not care anymore, that window for repair is rapidly closing. Which brings us to the courtroom problem. Love doesn't usually die from arguments. Love dies by certainty. When you start weaponizing pop psychology to diagnose your partner, saying things like, oh, you're a narcissist or you're toxic, you're building an airtight case against them. You lose all your curiosity. And as the old saying goes, you can be right or you can be married. Certainty leaves absolutely no room for your partner to surprise you, and definitely no room for repair. We also have to acknowledge that sometimes this falling out of love feeling is a complete masquerade. Depression can flatten your entire emotional landscape, making your partner feel distant just because everything feels gray. Burnout puts your nervous system into triage mode. Connection becomes a luxury you literally cannot afford. Even medical realities like SSRIs, hormonal shifts, or thyroid dysfunction can mimic the loss of love. You have to make sure you aren't blaming the relationship for what is actually an external biological depletion. Section 6, the reconnection protocol. Let's shift gears and look at an actual clinical roadmap for repair. The first tool here is profound. It's called the time machine. When your partner is triggered, you have to override your own defensive instincts. Instead of arguing back, you act as a corrective emotional experience for their younger self. So if they fear abandonment, you stay planted and explicitly assure them you aren't leaving. If they fear engulfment, you offer them space without punishing them for taking it. You're healing the old wound by giving them the exact emotional experience they never got. But to pull that off, you must follow the strict biological sequence of repair. Notice that problem solving is way down at step 4. You cannot, I repeat, cannot skip straight to step 4 during a fight. You have to stop the tape. You have to establish biological safety first. Only when the nervous system calms down can trust actually be felt. That brings the cognitive brain back online so you can finally negotiate without treating each other like mortal threats. To establish that safety quickly, you can use the 90-second rave method. First, reflect their experience back to them. Next, accept that it is true for them, even if you totally disagree. Then validate that it makes sense why they feel that way. And finally, explore what would help them right now. It takes like a minute and a half, but it instantly interrupts years of negative cycles by just shutting off those biological alarm bells. Doing this helps completely dismantle what we call the versus illusion. Look, when we're hurting, we automatically think it's you versus me, but your partner isn't the enemy here. You are on the exact same side, fighting the unhealed inherited patterns from your childhoods. The moment you shift the narrative from you versus me to us versus the pattern, the distance between a huge rupture and a successful repair shrinks dramatically. And that leads us to the ultimate goal, building the sovereign us. This is a third entity in the room, something much bigger than your individual egos. You stop asking, what do I need? And you start asking, what does the relationship need right now? You build this through proof of work, tiny, daily, consistent rituals of connection. It's a sturdy, earned security that acts like a subscription model for mature love, totally replacing that neurochemical free trial we talked about earlier. So, the crucial point is this: the honeymoon phase isn't the destination, it's just a lobby. True intimacy is what happens after the performance ends. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. Are you willing to let the butterflies die? Are you willing to let that neurochemical free trial expire so the sturdy, beautiful, completely real work of earned security can finally begin? Thank you so much for watching this explainer. I really hope this gives you the map you've been looking for. If you want to work on this for real, try Figlet, my AI relationship coaching app. You can start for free, no credit card needed, at figlet.empathy.com.